To talk more about what's happening at East Surrey Hospital, we can speak to Henry Smith, the MP for Crawley, in fact. Good morning, Mr. Smith. You've been very much involved with East Surrey Hospital because of your long-term campaign for the survival of Crawley Hospital. Will this £14 million investment be enough to stop the problems that are going on there, or is this just a sticking plaster?
Well, good morning. Well, I think it will help. New investment into reconfiguring A&E so that its capacity is better, ensuring that they have extra space and extra beds for day surgery, which is something which is sort of bread and butter of most hospitals that East Surrey haven't been able to do much of because they've been dealing with the crisis in A&E, will mean that more services can be provided. So it's a good thing. It is still my contention that we need a new hospital for the catchment area, centred in the middle of that area, which I would argue, and indeed geographically as a fact, is the Crawley area, with better transportation links and closer to most of the population. But that's obviously a more longer-term ambition. So in the shorter term, if it means providing a better A&E service and a better day surgery service to my constituents and indeed people in the wider area, then it has to be welcomed.
What is the long-term solution to this? Because we hear of East Surrey Hospital and the likes of Epsom and St Helier desperately scrabbling around trying to find the partners that they need to turn themselves into foundation hospitals, which will then give them more control of their budget, which then may allow them to do other things. You've outlined what you see as the long-term goal. How do we actually practically get there under the new health bill, starting from where we are now?
Well, I think one of the big things that the changes that are happening in the NHS will do is there's not only additional investment that has been promised for the rest of this Parliament at least. That helps, but it's more than money. It's about the way that decisions are made in the health service. It's about the way that services are configured. And what the health bill aims to do is give far greater choice to clinicians, to GPs, to consultants, to patients, to say exactly where and how they are treated. At the moment, all of these decisions are pretty much made by remote bodies, by the Department of Health, by remote strategic health authorities and so forth, without any patient or democratic involvement at the local level. The health bill changes that. So, we think that ultimately clinicians and patients will vote with their feet, and the funding for the NHS will follow the individual much more. And we think that is a real opportunity to actually say, look, we need to have hospital provision and other healthcare provision actually where the patients want and need it and where their doctors and clinicians want.
So rather than a big sweeping decision to chuck a load of money at Crawley, you reckon it could kind of leach away from East Surrey Hospital towards Crawley, as that's where clinicians decide on maybe a practice-by-practice basis or whatever, that's where the greatest need is?
I think that's a very good analogy, actually, that you've just given. I wouldn't be against a sweeping decision that would decree that there should be a new hospital for the Crawley area, obviously. But I actually think that with greater democratic scrutiny over the health service coming with greater choice and control of budgets, which ultimately was what it comes down to, of local doctors, then actually these decisions will come about, will evolve as you have said. And speaking to the GPs in Crawley, and I know it's the same in the Horsham area as well, they very much believe that acute health services should be more closely centred to their patients, and rightly so, in my opinion.
Well, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Mike Smith, who's the chair of the Patients Association, about this in a few moments' time, but I can't let you go, Mr. Smith, without pointing out what I'm sure you're aware of, that you were front page news on the Daily Express yesterday with the headline, "Workers Fired for Being British." Now, obviously we don't want to go too much into the specifics of the case, but as you raised the situation in Parliament about two of your constituents, do you honestly seriously believe that there are cases of discrimination like this going on in the country today, where employers are saying, I'd rather have a foreign worker because they work harder than a Brit?
Well, I'm afraid that's what the evidence seems to be suggesting. I had these two constituents come to my advice surgery several months ago. They claimed this. I wrote to the company, as I write to any company when a constituent complains about them. Most companies are very reasonable and say, we'll investigate the complaint. this company was very aggressive and very threatening towards me and said they didn't want to deal with it, which was a little bit suspicious. So that's why I raised it in Parliament. Since raising it in Parliament on Thursday, and since the various newspaper articles and the front page of the Express yesterday, the amount of approaches that my office has had from people around the country with very similar experiences is quite shocking, actually. So I will be calling for a further parliamentary debate on this because I suspect this is something that is going on.
That the British employers could be prejudiced against its own native workforce.
That is certainly what a lot of the evidence that I've seen recently possibly suggests. And
there would be a lot of people who say that the British workforce has only got itself to blame for refusing to do the jobs.
I think it's worthy. I think it's worthy of more debate, and whatever the reasons for that are, I think is important that we discuss those, because at a time when obviously jobs is a big issue for most people. These kind of issues do need to be discussed.
Absolutely,
and we need to get to the bottom of them.
Well, let's get you on about that another time. Thank you very much for your time this morning. That's
it's my pleasure.
Henry Smith, the MP for Crawley.